The time is just gone 19 minutes past 9 as we continue with the broadcast this morning. And it's time now to join the Executive Secretary of the Association of Muslim Accountants and Lawyers, Imraan Subrathie. We're talking about the BELA bill, and AMAL has issued a formal statement registering their objection to the proposed bill. Haji Imraan, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jummah Mubarak to you.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Haji Naid Wadi. Jazakallah, thank you for having me on your show.
Yes, the BELA bill, we've had extensive discussions on this bill, its consequences, and the implications within our own committee that we've got, which is the LGBTQ steering committee as well. And there's been in-depth analysis last week. We spoke to someone as well with regard to this bill in itself. And clearly, it is creating a lot of concern. And as an organization, as AMAL, you've now formally registered your concerns and your objection.
Yes, we have registered our concern. It's something that you cannot ignore, Haji Naid Wadi. There's overwhelming outcry from our communities across the board, across religious divide, because what we're seeing and what we find in this bill, it seeks to ultimately remove the parental rights and the rights of parents, the established rights of parents in how to raise their children, in deciding what type of education is best for their children, in passing on a culture to their children that they think is best. It ultimately seeks to disempower parental rights in the education space and vest that with the Minister of Education. And certainly AMAL had to add its voice, and we did not in our submission, because there's been overwhelming submissions by other specialists in the education space. We did not do a comprehensive examination of clause by clause. Rather, we tried to amplify the major concerns that we are aware of and which are valid as far as parental rights are concerned. So yes, we did submit an objection to the BELA bill.
Yes. Now, obviously, when I look at the points and the concerns that you have raised, there are a number. I'm just looking at it now. There's about 6 issues that have been raised on this press release, and we will go through them and in a bit of more detail. But when one looks at a bill like this, and one begins to question and try to understand what actually lies behind introducing a bill or legislating a bill of this sort. Surely there is something behind the scenes. There is a lot that possibly could be playing out that, an unsuspecting public, because at face value, yes, there are a number of concerns that we've raised, but behind that, surely that there should be another agenda. Something could be playing out.
Yes, I think that is a general concern. And if one views it against the backdrop of the gender education, and our committee is involved with the whole LGBTQ steering committee and the entire introduction of gender-based education in schools, one can only conclude that there may be a greater and a more sinister objective of this. And ultimately, the way I see it playing out, it is intended to take away the rights of parents to decide what must be taught to the children, how it must be taught in terms of syllabus. In a wide myriad example, if a parent decided, what, I'm not happy with the current schooling structure, I'm not happy with my child being exposed to what conventional schooling is exposed to, I want to have for my child an alternative education. Maybe I want to give my child, homeschool my child. That's something that's worked very successfully. And all of a sudden you find the minister, this DBE, this bill, seeks to take away or regulate so tightly homeschooling to this extent that the parent has to get the permission of DBE. The parent has to report to the DBE, to the minister continuously, to the extent that the syllabus will also be regulated by the minister. So it's almost being homeschooled, but with a syllabus that the government has decided upon. And another area, for example, where it raises concern about the sinister nature, and whilst we might appreciate that in certain communities, parents might not take the education of their children seriously, One of the areas of concern is, for example, ensuring and insisting that a child must be registered to school from the age of 5 to 15. Here again, parents might opt, and in our community and in many other communities, parents might opt that, instead of sending my child for a conventional education, for reasons that the parent feels that's best, it's not in my interest of my child to go to the system. Rather give my child vocational training, or I'd send my child for religious education, for example, into a Darul Uloom, into a madrasa, to seek religious education as an alternative. Here again, the bill says no, that cannot happen. The child must be in school from age 5 to age 15. And if a parent does not comply, they will be guilty of an offense. It will be a criminal offense. Now, this raises concern. Why is there this drive to ensure that the child must be in school, the child's education must be regulated? And it doesn't go, it's not rocket science now as things are emerging in the world. For example, one of the areas of concern, Haji Naid, was the insistence that a child must start at grade R. And that is in the incubation of the child's phase. And when we go to the what we call the ECD education, the early childhood development education curriculum and teacher training that's taking place at the moment, you will be shocked at the content that is being taught to educators, ECE educators, to cascade that to our children. And that is shocking. For example, the children will be given the choice, or they will be told, you could be a boy, you can choose to be a male or a female or anything other than that. Now, can you imagine telling a child at a young age, giving the child this type of choices? So now when you when you start to connect the dots, you realize, and you have to come to this reflection, that why is there this insistence that the child must come to school at the age of 4 or 5 for grade R? And when you join the dots about the agenda on the other side, one will be what it doesn't take rocket science, as I said, to come to this conclusion that there is a sinister intention that we need to challenge. And I think remaining silent will make us complicit in something that will come back to haunt us in years to come. Yes, Haji Naid, what?
Well, certainly, Haji Imran. In fact, you've mentioned a number of issues, and obviously, it's in your statement as well with regard to compulsory age as well, and also looking at the control over the homeschooling process, the SGBs. But I've just seen a few comments come through from Advocate Shamima Dolly, and there are a number of issues, and I'd like your comment on this, Haji Imran, where she speaks about the younger the child is indoctrinated and brainwashed in line with Zionist actions and the way they have brainwashed their children. The sad reality is that there is a war that has started to remove morality and God consciousness commencing with our children. This enables the government control over our children, and again commenting on the bill, which is unconstitutional and disrespects the constitutional rights of parents to ensure the holistic well-being of our children. Just your comment on what Advocate Shamima Dolly is saying.
Most certainly, we must understand that as much as parents have rights over their children, so does a child have right. One of the right of a child is to inherit a culture, a system of values that's been passed on from generations to generations. That is the child's right. That's what he's supposed to inherit. And this vesting of control, almost total control to the department of what they teach our children, is denying our children of this their right. And Advocate is certainly on target that the greater objective of this is to take away our innocent minds of our children, place them in an institution, and institutionalize their mind and their thinking in accordance with an agenda, in accordance with a foreign culture, a culture that is foreign to our children. I mean, can you imagine telling a child in class that if you want, telling a boy kid that if you want to dress like a girl, it's okay, it's no problem? I mean, how much more confusing can you confuse? A child has already confused at that young age. What are we trying to create? I mean, I cannot see any sense or logic, except the only sense of logic I can see is you are trying to confuse our children. Certainly, you're not trying to help our children find themselves. So, yes, advocacy is bang on target. The concepts of morality. I mean, the bird seeks to promote the gender education, sexuality education. I mean, it's almost shocking, but we cannot avoid. We need to talk about this. The certain education materials. If you look at materials that are being taught, that are being developed to encourage children in their young ages to examine their physical selves, to arouse themselves, to become in sync with their bodily functions. These concepts are totally foreign to us, let alone Muslims. It is foreign to basic cultures, black African cultures, and other religious cultures. These things are foreign to us, and the Department of Basic Education, unfortunately, if you project it, ultimately, if it goes uncontested, we will be raising a generation of children that will lack morality, that will lack limits, that will be confused, that will be a highly sexualized generation, that will have no value system, that will be really, we will be throwing our kids away. So it's really shocking, and certainly our appeal to parents is to respond to it. And, I'm not too sure how much of time we have, but just to let your audience know, Haji Naid Wadi, written submissions have closed on the 31st of January, but oral submissions are open and are being announced by the various provinces. There are various venues that are being announced by the various provinces for oral submission. So my appeal to parents out there, if you've taken it lightly and you did not submit written submissions, that's fine. But please avail yourself in your respected provinces for the oral submissions.
Yes. Haji Imran, you and I are having this discussion right here on radio, on Salam Media, and I hear the urgency in your voice. I hear that we need to do something with a sense of urgency. But again, my question would be, as communities, as a society, how serious are we actually treating this? Because this could have far reaching consequences. Are we serious enough, or are we going to wait for this bill to pass and then become reaction, then react, then says, you know what is this now? Now suddenly we're sitting with this major problem. I mean, is this a case as we speak right now?
Haji Naid Wadi, you must have seen me and known me to be a person who says it the way it is, and I don't like to sugarcoat things. The reality of it is, by and large, our community has shirked their responsibility, both as parents and both as religious leaders. And I say this with utmost of respect. And how do we measure this? I'm sitting in a few groups on the BELA. These are parents who are sitting on groups, and even to those who are informed, we have to beg them, please reply, please reply. And alhamdulillah, there's quite a few have responded. But no listener of yours can tell me they have not heard of the BELA bill. Every single person has heard of the BELA bill. The question we need to ask ourselves is, did we take the time to go and understand what is this BELA bill about? What are its consequences? And did we take the pain to go and respond? Or did we want to be of those who left it to someone else? That as long as it doesn't affect me directly, it doesn't pain me. It's akin to a person who hears about drug addiction and alcoholism and thinks it's just something small until it happens in your own family. So yes, to answer your question, we have not responded as we ought to have responded. Have we, in the last 4 or 5 talks in our masajids around the country, has this conversation taken place? If you have an audience of religious scholars listening in, have they encouraged their audiences and spoke about the importance of opposing this bill? And if we have not, then I truly believe we have not played our part and we have failed the responsibility. And again, there are many other bills that are coming fast and furious that we need to keep our ear to the ground. We need to respond timelessly, because if we do not, what is happening? These legislation are enabling legislation that's enabling a greater agenda to be forced upon us and upon our children. So it's high time as a community we step up to the need of the time.
Well, certainly, and I see Sister Shamima Dolly once again just reinforcing what you are saying, saying that Shukran Haji Naitwadi and Haji Imran for highlighting the urgency of our parents and guardians to get involved in the public participation of this matter. We have to raise we have to raise a war against the bill. We will be failing our offspring if we do not voice our written and oral concerns on this matter.
Most certainly, Haji Naid Wadi, we have to understand, we have to understand that, Alhamdulillah, the way we have been raised by our parents, by a system that raised us, an education system that raised us, that today we can sit and you and I can have this conversation. And there are many others like us that feel it, perhaps they cannot articulate it, but we have this. So we cannot therefore doubt how we have been trained. There's nothing wrong in our training. To introduce something that's new to our children is suggesting that the way we have been raised, there was something wrong. And I think we need to take exception to that. The way our parents, our grandparents, and generations have raised us, there's nothing wrong. Alhamdulillah, we are a generation of people that feel the pain of the oppressed of the world, that feel the anguish of hunger of people. We are a community and a generation that has been raised, alhamdulillah, correctly. There's nothing wrong in the way we've been raised. Why do we want to doubt that and alter the way our children must be raised? So we need to understand this. We need to take pride firstly in the way we are, and we need to defend that right, that we want to raise our children to be morally conscious, societally conscious. We want them to be chaste. We want them to value this Allah given rights, this Allah given body, the institution of marriage. For example, the agenda of sex and sexuality and gender, it is so insane. It promotes this philosophy that your body is your body. You don't need to be married to engage in a sexual relationship. It's your body. You just enjoy yourself. Who says you need to be married to have children? So it is a culture that's being advocated that's totally foreign, that's going to raise a generation that's hypersexualized, that has no value system, that has no limits. So we cannot remain silent. And we've seen the pictures, we've seen the scenes around the Western countries where parents have been raising and rising and strongly opposing these agendas. It is time, I believe, in South Africa that parents start to raise their voices. It is not a time to remain silent.
Well, clearly, and I hear the passion, I hear the emotion, I hear the urgency in your voice, and this is something that we should not be treating lightly, as you mentioned, Haji Imran. And I hope we had a lot more time, because I'm sure there's a lot more you can bring to this discussion. But I'm sure you and I will be having a lot of these discussions going forward from time to time as well. But for now, Jazakallah for your time. Allah Ta'ala accept. Allah reward you for your efforts. I know these have been untiring efforts on your part, and almost to a point that it has become an obsession on your part. But at the end of the day, the message needs to go loud. It needs to go very, very clear. And also at the same time, as societies, as communities, as an ummah, we need to spring to action. And this is what we need to do with a sense of urgency. Jazakallah once again for your time, Haji Imran. Have yourself a wonderful Jummah, inshallah. And looking forward to further engagements. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah Haji Naid Wadi and your team at Salam Media for hosting me on your show.
Imran Subrathie, Executive Secretary of the Association of Muslim Accountants and Lawyers. And once again, Jazakallah to you, Shamima Dolly Isali, as well, for all the comments and obviously for highlighting some very, very important, some critical issues in your comments and in response to this discussion we've had with Haji Imran Subrati. With that, we're going to go for a break. We come back, we'll be joined by Professor Monique Marks, and we're talking about Butterfly Souls Family Days in support for the children of Palestine.